Yeah, right. Like they'll ever do this in a fucking movie. Oh, hello. Oh, Jesus. Hello, everybody. Josh12 back here again with another video. Yes, I am back, finally, as promised in my last vlog update channel thing, something. I said that I was going to ease my way back into video making on YouTube. Yeah, this is going to be my official review and personal thoughts on Justice League, the movie, 2017, directed by Zack Snyder with reshoots by Joss Whedon, starring Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ray Fisher, Ezra Miller, a whole bunch of other people. I think Amy Adams is in it still. She's still in this movie franchise. Yeah, she's in it. Diane Lane's in there. Yeah. And then a whole bunch of other actors that were cut out of the theatrical version. Nice job, WB. Let's get into Justice League.
Let's do it. Alright.
Yes, as stated in my poorly sketched out little intro for this video review, I am going to be reviewing and giving out all of my personal thoughts regarding the drama, the release, the production, the acting, the execution of 2017's Justice League film. It might get a little long, it might get a little too rambly. If you're a person who goes to YouTube specifically for very short, cut up videos, this is probably not for you, and I might say Wonder Woman wrong, so you might get a little angry with me, and there's going to be a lot of noise coming from this chair that I'm sitting on. You hear that? That's this chair. It makes sounds. Yeah, I gotta get a new one. Anyways, let's get into the #1 film that all of us super fanboys have been waiting for, all of us comic book nerds have been waiting for. No matter what kind of decade you are from, you have been wanting a DC lineup of biblical proportions. You've been wanting your greatest superhero characters in a team-up film to save the world, whether it be from the days of Super Friends to Justice League Unlimited, all the way down to Smallville. You've wanted to see your greatest heroes team up. Unfortunately, Warner Brothers miscalculated in a lot of various areas, and they gave us a film that's so, I guess you can say, almost embarrassingly bad, but fun. I guess it really depends on your personal preference on what these movies are and how they make you feel, but for me personally, I found Justice League to be a 50-50 mixed bag. It's kind of like a giant waste of my time, but because I had so much fun, not only nitpicking at it, but also viewing the characters team up for the first time, it was a really interesting ride. And that's why it's so fun to talk about DC, because whether you're hating on it or loving it, it's just an interesting ride just to talk about these projects and films. But regardless of any of this stuff, WB has executed its latest installment into their what they call the DC Film Universe, or DC Extended Universe, whatever title you want to give it, and gave us Justice League this year. Unfortunately, it didn't do that great domestically. It's doing some business worldwide, but it hasn't been making as much money as perceived. Overall, Justice League seems to be a movie that really was, yeah, it was a thing. It was a movie that was perceived to be the end of a trilogy, started with Man of Steel and followed up with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and telling the story of Superman and the story of these great heroes meeting up for the first time. Now, did they do as good of a job as they may think they have done? Well, not really. As you've noticed, there's been a lot of behind-the-scenes drama regarding Justice League, whether it be with mandates they had for the film, or with the decisions to keep Snyder on the project or to get rid of him, and there was a lot of things in between. For me personally, I felt like these production issues really ruined the film. If you're really into the behind-the-scenes drama with big Hollywood projects, then you probably already have been looking up all the behind-the-scenes drama and production issues. This is a movie that was plagued with a lot of it. Snyder, obviously, after the major fail that was Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the studio had a lot of problems with him, and there was a lot of fighting in between, and they had a lot of mandates. They needed to change the tone. They needed to change the entertainment factor. They needed to change the story. They needed to change their overall way of making movies. And when you have that mixed in with the, I guess you could say, surprise success of Wonder Woman, you have a movie that's trying to be multiple things and not really succeeding at all of them. I personally feel like, and I might get some hate here and there, but for me personally, I kind of feel like Justice League is a movie that either one of two things should have happened. It either should have just had more time to work on, whether it be an entirely another year of reshoots of just having Joss Whedon to reshape this movie, or B, a complete new reboot. I know a lot of people feel very indifferent to that. Some people really like this movie. Some other people feel like it's okay with the cut they got, and they're just waiting for the inevitable Snyder cut that probably won't even happen in the first place. Regardless of any of these things, we have to deal with the movie we got, and I honestly feel like they just should have took more time or just done something completely different. From my point of view, obviously I understand this. From a financial standpoint, it makes sense for why WB did the things they did, because they had a lot of money riding on this movie. They had a lot of money riding on majority of these movies. And after the major critical hit that they got with BVS, they were already down the line in filming and producing this movie. So they were already deep in a hole. Unfortunately, instead of trying to dig themselves out of a hole, they dig themselves deeper in the hole. In my point of view, they really should have just either took more time on Joss Whedon's cut or just redid the entire film. Anyways, regardless of any of that, let's focus on other things regarding this movie, and that is the story, the direction, the music, the overall style and writing of this film. Overall, the movie, the story, the plot is essentially Steppenwolf, the ultimate bad guy of the universe apparently, has come to Earth after the wake of Superman's death to take over the world via mother boxes. Yeah, mother boxes. You know what those are? Well, they're essentially these super-powered godlike devices, tech devices from the universe of DC, where apparently in the context of this movie, you can use to not only teleport via boom tubes to various places in the universe, but also when you combine them, they can, I guess, terraform planets or destroy them. Batman, after foreseeing multiple hallucinogenic fucking dream sequences in BVS, decides, with the help of Wonder Woman, create a team of superheroes, and then Superman shows up. Spoilers. Did I mention that? Oh yeah, there's spoilers all around with this movie review. We're gonna get deep in the asshole of this project. The plot of this Justice League film is very stupid. It really is whatever. I honestly feel like going back to those various mandates that WB had, they had to do several things. Number one, they had to change the tone of the DCEU. Obviously, a lot of people had problems with the dark, serious, and heavily depressing tone of BVS, and they did that. And I think, honestly, that was pretty much the best move for this project and the series, because we honestly could not deal with another depress fest with DC movies. And I feel like with the surprise success of Wonder Woman, this gave them the advantage to actually head into that territory. Obviously, it's hit or miss with this movie because sometimes it fits, sometimes it doesn't, mostly due to the styling shifts of Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon's directing styles, but regardless, the tonal shift I feel like actually supports the movie and the universe as a whole. Moving off of that, their second mandate was time. BVS was a very long film, and if you're including the Ultimate Edition, it's an extremely long film. Unfortunately, WB wants to make as much money as possible because obviously these movies aren't artistic endeavors, they're cash grabs. So obviously they needed to make a shorter movie in comparison to its predecessors. That's what they did with Justice League. That didn't work. It's just not enough to really tell the story that they want to tell. So the movie sacrifices a lot of time, sacrifices precious time to give depth, character development, arcs, and an actual story. So obviously this was not a good thing. The story overall, look, it is what it is. I personally feel like the mandates that WB had actually hurt the film, but it also helped it in certain areas. So when it comes down to tone and fun and entertainment, it works, but for story, it sucks because, let's put it out there. You heard my, somewhat synopsis of this film. The basic layman's terms of the story is this. Justice League is about a guy collecting boxes. That's all this movie is. There's no real groundbreaking scenarios. There's no real chaotic epicness. It's just a guy collecting a box. It's the UPS movie of superhero films. It's really ridiculous at the end of the day. Justice League, it doesn't do anything cool or interesting with the story. It is what it is. It's generic. All it is great characters, or at least somewhat great characters, having fun, playing off against each other, and that's the only real interesting parts. I feel like this movie with all of its flaws and all of its fucking problems, is saved by its characters. Like, basically, the best way I can put it when it comes down to the story of this movie, when the characters are doing things with each other, I know that sounds kind of dirty, but let me rephrase it. When the characters are basically bickering and trying to understand each other, and basically having open conversations and dialogues with each other, it's the best movie. When the stupid plot gets in the way and the villain, it sucks. Although when it comes down to the final boss battles, I will say this. It was nice to not see a light beam in the sky that the superheroes had to stop. They tend to do that a lot with superhero movies of today. Thankfully, it's not in this movie. If there's any kind of new ground, the only thing they do is the sky turns red. And I get it, it's like, oh hey, crisis, what's up? But beyond that, it's like, yeah, it's the same old shit. When it comes down to these movies and these action sequences, the final boss battle of Justice League really felt like boring waste of time. By the time you get to the final boss battle, you have the Justice League versus Steppenwolf, and all of it felt very unnecessarily boring. So you have this placement of an evacuated place, with exception to like one family, that serves really no purpose other than the idea that, oh hey, we gotta save people. I will say this, I understand what they were going for there. I don't think it worked, but I will say this. Kudos for DC not incorporating the US government and military. Every fucking DC movie has the US government and fucking military. Every single one of them. It's fucking ridiculous. Man of Steel, as Superman is introducing himself to the world, who does he do it to? Not the people, not the metropolis, not Smallville. He does it to the fucking military. In Batman v Superman, who's evaluating everything that's happening with the Battle of Doomsday? The US government. Suicide Squad. Who creates the Suicide Squad? Amanda Waller, from permission from the government. Wonder Woman. You have British intelligence. Wow, it really gets ridiculous and redundant after a while. The directors, of course, were Zack Snyder. He gets full directing credit with this movie, but we have to realize the fact that Joss Whedon directed a lot of this movie as well, and mostly through the reshoots. Fuck. I'll tell you, talking about DC films makes me famished. Jesus. Anyways, moving off of that. Directors. Yes, Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon teamed up to make this movie. Unfortunately, Zack Snyder came into some family personal tragedy, which for obvious reasons and very understandable reasons had to get the fuck out of Dodge and focus on his family versus the movie. And that led us to the multiple production issues on top of production issues when it came to the behind the scenes drama with this movie. So Joss Whedon was brought in to direct the reshoots and take care of the post-production of Justice League. However, I will say this, I do enjoy what Joss Whedon added. However, it definitely sticks out like a sore thumb as to the difference of directing visual styles of these directors. I will admit that sometimes it's a little vague as to who directs what, but for the most part, I feel like, once again, WB miscalculated on how the audience would stupidly perceive this movie as a solely Zack Snyder project, when it really isn't. There's definitely instances throughout the movie where you can clearly see the visual style of Zack Snyder and the directing style of Joss Whedon. Like the opening sequence, for example. It's this horribly depressing and slow motion with very horrendously played sad song of basically to symbolize the world's mourning of Superman's death. Horribly slow-mo and horribly depressing. And it felt very Zack Snyder.
The world remains in mourning after the death of the Superman.
When Bruce and Diana are talking to each other outside of costumes, or when they are together in a solo moment just to discuss their personal views of what's going to happen, felt very Joss Whedon. So yeah, if WB really believed that the audience and the viewers would actually just believe that it was just one director and the whole movie would work as one visual story, I don't think they really succeeded in making that happen, because it is really easy to pick and choose which scene was directed by who. It's clear. And another real big indicator is Superman. As we all know, Superman, Henry Cavill, had a major dilemma dealing with his mustache during reshoots and post-production of this film. Considering he was at the time shooting Mission Impossible, I guess 6 it is now, he had a mustache for that film, and instead of doing the more logical thing to do, which is not to waste fucking hundreds and millions of fucking dollars, had to CGI his mustache away. So, unfortunately, throughout the major reshoots of the film, Superman has a stupid CGI face to cover up his mustache. So that's another real big indicator to see what are the Joss Whedon shoots in comparison to the Zack Snyder cut. Zack Snyder, he never got to finish this film, and Joss Whedon only took care of the reshoots and the post-production. But based off what I've seen in this theatrical cut of the film, I can honestly say that the stuff that involved more slow moments of the film or the major battle sequences, I found to be the most uninteresting, and the more character moments and character interactions to more interesting. Yes, the sound of Justice League, the themes and the score of Justice League. As we already know, Danny Elfman came in to replace Junkie XL for the scoring of Justice League, which I felt like was the best part of this movie. Not because the music was great, but because we didn't have to listen to that god-awful Batman theme that Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL created for Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of BVS fans. I can deal with a lot of shit when it comes to these kind of movies. Hell, a lot of the music with the DCEU I don't like. The Suicide Squad soundtrack I think is overrated. The only real score that makes any sense to me that feels great is the Hans Zimmer score for Man of Steel. I thought it was awesome. I think it was practically almost as good as his Dark Knight score. BVS had a lot of shit that was kind of cool. Lex Luthor, terrible character, terrible performance, granted, but fuck, that theme is kind of cool. Day of the Dead theme, I thought that's a really good theme too. Terrible sequence in the movie, but good theme nonetheless. Hell, the Wonder Woman theme, I think is obnoxiously in your face and annoying, but I can deal with that. The Batman theme of fucking BVS, I despise, I loathe so much. I don't want that shit in my life. So with Danny Elfman coming in to redo the music, I actually like that idea. And listening to the score outside of the movie, it's actually pretty decent. It's okay. I like it. If there is one thing that really pissed me off about Danny Elfman with this movie, it has to deal with the fact that he didn't do what he said he was going to fucking do. He said that he was going to be using the Batman '89 theme and the John Williams Superman theme. Where is it? It's barely in the movie. And when they are used, they're horribly placed. When we get to actually listen to some form of John Williams-esque Superman stuff, it's when Superman is kind of crazy. He's fighting like the Justice League, and you kind of hear it somewhat. It's like vague, but it's there. You can hear it. Why is it there? It really boggles my mind. And once again, maybe that had a lot to do with what WB wanted out of him or something, but yeah, if he was going to go down on the record and say, hey, I'm going to use these themes, go for it. Because, hey, Danny Elfman did create the definitive theme for Batman. Whenever you think of Batman, you don't think of any of the shit in the other movies. The Dark Knight trilogy, as much as I love it, it beats even that. The sound that he created for Batman in Tim Burton's Batman movies crossed over to the animated universe. Shirley Walker came over and did the score and completely made him even better with defining the sound of Batman throughout the animated series and even the films like Mask of the Phantasm. She did a wonderful job. Danny Elfman did a wonderful job with creating the sound and theme of Batman. Yet in this movie where he comes back, he's the comeback kid. He came back, he's gonna do it, he says he's gonna do it, and we get only one clip vaguely hinting at it. What the fuck, dude?
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
After all the bullshit that I've been discussing, and all the fucking, I don't even know what this is. It's weird text. I can't even spell it out. Of me drinking this questionable liquids. It's finally time to discuss, to finally mention and talk about the one good aspect of this film, and that is the Justice League themselves. Yes, let's talk about the cast, the characters, let's get into the villain, let's talk about the League.
This isn't the plan. No, Master Wayne. This is the team.
Oh my god, do I have a lot to say. Considering we're dealing with a long collage of characters for this film, I'm going to mention and discuss each character individually. First with the new characters, then with the Trinity, and then finally with the villain and various other co-characters. Now, let's start off with the new League. Jason Momoa as the Aquaman, Arthur Curry.
There is a stranger. Comes from the sea. Arthur Curry, also known as the Aquaman. I hear you can talk to fish.
Overall, I like Jason Momoa as an actor. I think he's been in a lot of cool things here and there. I think he's decent. Jason Momoa, I think actually did a pretty good job. Considering I wasn't expecting much from him going in the movie, he did a really good job. I thought he was a lot of fun. He brought a lot of entertainment. I thought it was kind of cool how he just didn't give a fuck about anything else other than himself. You can definitely tell he's not exactly Aquaman from the comics, but I feel like his weird bromance with Zack Snyder actually fit the character more, because what they did was decided not to necessarily do Aquaman from the comics, because let's be honest, no one gives a fuck about Aquaman unless you're like my brother or some hardcore super nerd.
Every day it's Aqua Loser this and Aquapus that.
Aquaman flows wet.
I am the king of the f***ing ocean, Cyborg! Do you think I've never seen a puddle before? Ow! Ow! My tailbone! My tailbone!
You know, Aquaman's a joke. He's a whatever character. But in the context of this movie and universe, they decided the cool thing to do was, instead of do Aquaman, we're just gonna do Jason Momoa playing himself if he had superpowers. And that's basically what they did. I guess the best way I can put it is, if you ever looked at Jason Momoa's Instagram, that's Aquaman the character. All he does in the movie is he's drinking, he's doing ridiculous stunts, and he's fucking having a lot of fun doing it. So that's pretty much Aquaman, and I liked it. I had a fear going into the movie that Aquaman would be kind of a bro, and I didn't want to see that. I was expecting him to be that. He wasn't that. He was more fun and entertaining, and the little bits and pieces we get to see of Aquaman, which aren't enough, granted, but what we get to see gets me excited for his actual movie, which is a plus. Unfortunately, we have to wait an entirely new year to fucking wait for that movie to come out, which is next December, but Aquaman is cool. I cannot wait for the movie, and I thought his relationship and interactions with the world of Aquaman, specifically Mira, definitely planted the seeds for what the movie can be. Moving off of that, let's get into the number one character I was most looking forward to, and that is obviously The Flash. Yes, Ezra Miller plays Barry Allen, aka The Flash, and I was very excited to see this character.
Barry Allen, a normal guy, got hit by a bolt of lightning, giving him superpowers, making him The Flash. Come on, that's cool.
So you're fast.
That feels like an oversimplification.
Overall, I'm a huge fan of The Flash. I love all the iterations of The Flash, whether it be the characters from the comics, cartoons, the TV shows. I feel like there's just been a lot of great lore planted for Flash to be a great character. And Ezra Miller is a great actor. I personally really like Ezra Miller in other projects. I think he's a really cool wackadoo guy. That brings a lot of that charisma and energy to his roles, and just the movies I've seen him in are great. Perks of Being a Wallflower, I really enjoyed him in that. I like the Stanford Prison Experiment. I thought that was really good. I just think he's a really cool, interesting actor.
I'm sorry, can we just...
And unfortunately, I don't think he did a great job in this movie. I know a lot of critics are actually praising Ezra Miller for his performance in this film. For me, he actually became the most disappointing aspect of the film for me. Because I had so much high hopes and anticipation for him in the movie, I really kind of set myself to be let down, and unfortunately that's what happened. What they try to do is they try to Tom Holland Spider-Man-esque him that way. They try to make him more like that kind of character, and I feel like that would have worked if he was playing a different fucking character. Like, think about it in this kind of context. First off, Barry Allen is not a kid. He's an adult. He does a lot of adult things, and even though the ending of this movie kind of sets him up to be more like Barry Allen, he's not really Barry Allen. He's more like Wally West, which obviously brings up the question, why couldn't he just be Wally West? It really serves no purpose. Once again, it's another one of those WB, DC, nonsensical decision makings, so it is what it is. And this is not me trying to be like, oh, I'm a fanboy of The Flash. Sure, I love The Flash TV series. You know how much I love that show. Season 3, I haven't finished, so I don't know if it's any good, and Season 4 is killing it with the crossovers, whatever, that are currently going on. So I don't know. But overall, I do like the Flash TV series, and I just feel like, it just would have served more purpose if they just made him Wally West and maybe set up some form of crossover that they can do in the future. Not only that, I feel like the biggest issue, besides that alone, is the fact that Ezra Miller's Flash is nothing more than a wooden copy of the TV version. Like, basically, I think the best way that it could be stated is that in the film itself, spoilers, there's a moment where Barry's talking to Bruce about his powers. Like, he's discussing the Speed Force and why he eats so much and why he's so fast, and he's discussing it with Bruce Wayne as he's entering his like Mercedes or whatever, and he's basically not paying any kind of attention to him because he's an asshole. So, you know, he's saying all these things to Bruce, but as he's finished talking about it, he basically states, oh, well, that's the abridged version. And I felt like that statement alone pretty much is the sigil or statement you can make for the character as a whole in this movie. Because every single thing that the character goes through in this film is an abridged version of what we already saw with the TV show 3 years ago. Like, it boggles my mind. Like, it's really ridiculous. Like, oh, Barry, his dad was wrongfully convicted and he's in prison. Oh, already saw that in the TV show. Oh, he eats so much and is super fast because of the Speed Force. Oh, that was in the TV show. As much as I like the TV show, and as much as I'm not trying to come off as a hardcore fanboy of the TV show, because once again, as I stated, I love Season 1, Season 2 was okay, Season 3 I still haven't finished, a lot of people say it sucks, I don't know. But regardless, if you already have a TV show that's already developed the character so great, you had to bring it. You had to fucking bring it for the movie, and they didn't do any of that. It was complete, non-stop miss potential. Not only that, I can forgive the character and the story, I get it. You have a movie that's only 2 hours long, a TV show can do so much more with a character and its arc and development, I get that. But if there is one thing that also this movie could have clearly done better, is the special effects. This movie had like $300 million budget. This is a big Hollywood picture. And the fucking visual effects of how Barry looks when he runs is ridiculously awful. And he doesn't do anything cool with it. Like, there's only like one cool scene that I liked where Barry uses his Speed Force for like a joke, which is when he enters like the Batcave for the first time, or what I'm assuming is the Batcave because all the sets in this movie look the same to me. So he enters this room and he's like going, fear, 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 oh, what's this, what's that, oh, it's like a Batcave, the Batmobile, fanboy-gasm, like he's doing all that shit. And it's funny. It's like, oh, that's cool. After that and before that, everything else stinks. There's nothing impressive. It doesn't make any sense to me. WB, you had $300 million put into this movie. We live in a post-Quicksilver world, and you couldn't do anything close to that amazement or better with a character who's literally called the Flash. So yeah, there was a lot of missed potential, and there was a lot of great moments to try and do something cool with the Flash, his power, and the Speed Force. Yet the coolest thing you get out of him is that he pushes a sword back in slow-mo, which is something you basically get in the trailers. So yeah, all you have to do to see a cool Flash moment is watch the trailer, because there's nothing else cool that the Flash does in this movie. It's really disappointing. It just boggles my mind how you can just misuse that budget. I mean, hell, as misused or as underused, I would say, as Aquaman is in this film, at least we get to see him do cool things. You know, he's stabbing the shit out of parademons. He's pushing back water with his trident. Flash, however, it felt like they really didn't know what to do exactly, and they didn't want to copy Quicksilver too much, so they just did whatever. Overall, Ezra Miller, I like him, and I love the Flash, but yeah, I was heavily disappointed disappointed with his character, and I felt like his jokes lost a lot of steam after a while. I mean, like, what was the point of like a Pet Sematary joke? I mean, like in a DC movie, it was really pointless and stupid. And on top of that, I mean, let's just put it out there. I get what they were trying to do with him and Bruce. They were trying to do like a Batman and Robin thing, and they're trying to capture the same kind of style that like Marvel did with Spider-Man and Iron Man. But here's the problem. First off, Robin and Batman don't work. You should know this by now, WB. You had 2 movies dedicated to it. It doesn't work. Second, Ben Affleck is not as charismatic as Robert Downey Jr. Plus, Batman and Iron Man are 2 complete different characters. And Ezra Miller isn't as young as Tom Holland. Yeah, it's kind of too much suspension of disbelief going around for me to actually believe that Ezra Miller's playing like a little kid who can like be the Flash or something. Like, he's a fucking adult. He's a grown man. Hopefully he can bring something cool in the future, like whether that's Flashpoint. We'll see what happens. Now let's get into Cyborg. Yay!
Victor, time you discover the hero you are. You should probably move.
Cyborg, yeah! Cyborg. Cyborg is played by Ray Fisher, and Cyborg is a character that was created for the Teen Titans, or the new Teen Titans, which is an amazing comic book line if you've not seen or read by now. It's fucking awesome. You should check it out. Cyborg was a huge part of that, and a huge part of the Teen Titans. And Cyborg does have his own following with like the Teen Titans cartoons, but this is his real first time actually getting some kind of mainstream notoriety. And for me personally, I wasn't looking forward to him because Ray Fisher is not really that well known of an actor, so it's kind of like your first outing with him. And Cyborg is a character that outside of hardcore comic book fans that love the comics and the cartoons don't really know a lot about. So this was really a good moment to, unlike Flash and Aquaman and the rest of the team, to really flesh out the character and do something cool. As I stated previously, the story and the production issues and the mandates caused a lot of characters' arcs and development to be scrapped in the deleted scenes. This heavily screwed over Cyborg's character, but I will say this, I fucking loved him. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed Ray Fisher. I would say that out of all the new team additions, he was my favorite, and I feel like out of all the characters in the movie, he's the only one that technically kind of has an arc that makes somewhat of sense. Like, every other character has a vague arc that doesn't make sense at all, like Superman. His only arc is that he lived, he died, and he came back to life. Batman's arc is he killed people and he was an asshole. Now he's still an asshole, but he wants redemption, so he's on the redemption arc. And that's pretty much it. That's all really the arcs that they have. Cyborg, on the other hand, is an actual character that has an arc. He's a person that was heavily damaged, which isn't heavily stated in the film, so bear with me on that. Yet his body was combined with the Mother Box, which is this alien technology, and now he's alive again, and he has these incredible abilities that he views as a curse. And he doesn't enjoy the fact that he's alive. He doesn't understand how to continue to be human when he doesn't consider himself to be human anymore. And I like that. I really enjoyed that. By the time you get to the end of the film, feels a lot more like Cyborg, and he feels like an actual person. He's human again, and I got a lot of feels from that because it reminded me and it made me reminisce of his character from Teen Titans, from the cartoon series, and that amazing episode where Cyborg is having the same kind of quintessential issues that, like, is he human? Can he do things beyond what his mechanical body says he can't do? Like, his limit is 100%. Can he go beyond that? And it's an amazing episode. I don't want to go too much in depth, but it's amazing where he finally does discover that he is human and he's going to do good, and he can do good, and he has the capabilities of doing good, and the technology doesn't define who he is, he defines who he is, and it's awesome. I loved it. I love Cyborg. He was hands down one of my favorites, and I never thought I would say this, but I would actually be looking forward to a Cyborg movie. I don't know if WB's gonna actually do it, especially after reception of this movie, but fuck, I liked Cyborg, and I can't wait to see what they have planned for his character in the future because he was great. And Ray Fisher did a great job. I felt like at the beginning it's kind of hard to like really grasp him because he's playing very straight, very serious, but by the time you get to the end of the movie, he's goofing around, he's having fun, he's a guy's guy, he's just charismatic and just really cool. Now that we're done with the new league, let's get with the Trinity, the old league. Let's start off with Wonder Woman. Yes, let's talk about Gal Gadot as Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman.
What did you do this weekend?
Overall, I love Wonder Woman. I really enjoy that character, and I loved the movie. I mean, I even bought the Blu-ray. I mean, this right here is the first ever actual home video release of any DCEU film that I ever bought. I didn't buy no Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, none of that stuff. It's pretty much just this film. So that should show you that I actually really did enjoy it, regardless of any nitpicks I had with the actual movie itself. It's great, it's awesome, it's the best film in the series so far, and WB finally got my money, so I suckered in and got it. Where's my glasses? And the character is so well played by Gal Gadot. I feel like every single movie that passes by, she gets better and better with time with that character. Gal Gadot plays it perfectly. I mean, hell, that whole opening sequence where we're introduced to Wonder Woman in the film, it's freaking probably the most superhero-esque sequence you'll get out of the movie. It's phenomenal. Gal Gadot is incredible in this movie. She's the only actress or actor in this franchise that I wish just continues to play the character forever. What they're doing in the movies now with that character, I love. I have no real big qualms with her performance or the character. And honestly, I'm going to say this. Every single time you see her in the movie, and every single time she's doing her shit, like that one sequence, all I can keep thinking, and I hope everyone else feels the same, which is, why is this not Wonder Woman 2? I'm just like, every time I saw her, and especially in that scene, I'm just like, fuck, it's so good. Do we have to continue watching this fucking movie? Just do Wonder Woman 2 already, WB. Patty Jenkins, get on it. You got the money, you got the fucking power, do it. I want to fucking see Wonder Woman 2. I'm sick of this Justice League shit. Like, I would have rather have watched Wonder Woman 2 than Justice League as I was seeing that one scene alone. It's so good. And also, on top of that, the Amazons were great. The Amazonian sequence trying to keep the mother box away from Steppenwolf, that was also a very incredible scene. If there's any complaints I have, and I know a lot of people have mentioned this and talked about it, is Justice League sexist? Well, boys and girls, I don't know. I'm too stupid and incompetent to really come up with an opinion that's that actual important. But I will say this, in the context of this review, I will say this. I did find it incredibly noticeable and annoying how the women were used in this movie. I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's sexist, but I will say it is incredibly annoying and obvious. Wonder Woman is incredible. The Amazons are incredible. It's the best part of the movie. The best action out of the movie you'll get. Hands down. But I will say this, it's fucking so obvious how the crew, and I don't know whether it be the camera crew who worked on Zack Snyder's cut or with the reshoots with Joss, but it was so incredibly obvious how they tried to get so many fan servicey shots into this movie. Look, I get it. It's comic books. Even in the comic books, when you have women who have like very revealing-esque costumes and they're doing their thing, you have your fan servicey shots. Comics do it all the time. It's all about fan servicing the people who want to see something like sexual. I get that. They do it with the men. How they even do it with the men in this movie. I feel like Jason Momoa was to serve like the Chris Hemsworth purpose of DC, which is to be like, just be a hunky, sexy, good-looking guy with your shirt off, please. And he did that. So kudos. But fuck, they did a lot of that with the women in this movie. Like, first off, the Amazons. It's been a while since I've rewatched Wonder Woman. I did buy it on Blu-ray, so I will be rewatching it. But I will say this. I don't think the Amazons on Themyscira were as revealing as they were in this film. I think if you do like a shot-for-shot comparison, the women in this movie were a lot more revealing costume-wise than how they looked in the prior film. And that's really weird. Hell, even when they're doing their action scenes, it looks very obvious. Like, they're exposing like their super six packs. They're fucking exposing the cleavage of their breasts. I think there was some perverted ass motherfucking cameraman, because every single time Wonder Woman is doing something, some form of action pose, the camera needs to look up towards her. And I get it. Sure, it's DC characters. They're gods. You gotta look up to them. That's the point of the camera. We're the point of view, so we have to see them as gods. We look up to them. But when you do it literally, especially with a character like Wonder Woman who's kind of revealing costume-wise, it's so obvious what you're doing here. All you really want to do is look up her skirt. All you want to do is see Gal Gadot's ass. You want to see them thighs. You want to see her crotch. You want to see her titties. I get it. But do you have to make it so fucking obvious? And I feel like the camera crew for this film really made it obvious, and it got it kind of annoying. And there's sequences where it gets really fucking annoying. Like, two very obvious scenes. Number one is when the Flash falls on top of Wonder Woman during the first battle sequence with Steppenwolf. First off, why is that existing? Number two, it was so like unintentionally funny and stupid that it almost felt like an Austin Powers moment.
Oh, Terminus! Oh, look at that! Oh, Terminus! Oh, I fell over! Oh, I fell over again!
Ow!
Oh.
Mr. Powers!
Why is that in this movie? It just felt stupid. And Wonder Woman like looks at him like, oh, oh, Flash. And she does that a lot with all the men in this movie. It's like, you did some creepy shit with this movie, guy. You didn't, like, I don't know who the fuck's idea was it, whether it be Zach or Joss, but they did some creepy shit with that. And in the second thing, when they escape for the first time and they get on top of the Nightcrawler thingamajig, and the camera zooms up as the Nightcrawler is, like, tilting upwards, and all the characters are hanging on top of it, and you see clearly right through the skirt of Wonder Woman. It's like, oh my god, dude, did you have to make it so fucking obvious? Look, if you wanted just to have her nude, just have her be nude. Why do you have to go through all this shit? It's so bafflingly annoying and obnoxious. This movie made it very clear that men should not be directing Wonder Woman characters. Or women in general. Like, I know Ben Affleck and the rest of the crew were like, hey, bring in Black Canary and blah, blah, blah.
You following the news at all?
Yeah. With these people, I don't think so. I don't want to see those characters like Power Girl or Supergirl and Zatanna and fucking Black Canary be as sexualized in these team-up movies as Wonder Woman and the Amazons were. I don't want to see it. It just came off as way too obvious and annoying. Sure, you gotta have your fan service shots, I get that. But when you do it too much, all you do is demean the character that you built so much respect for in her prior movie. So all I can say is, for the future, WB needs to like make up a contract or something that says, hey, for future movies with these female characters, you gotta do this, this, and this, or only female directors. Like, I'm not saying Patty Jenkins has to direct all of them, but at least directors on the same level as a Patty Jenkins, the same caliber. Because, I'm just saying, no offense to Zach and Joss, because they've done some cool things with women characters in the past, but in this movie, it was very fucking obvious as to how the women were used. And maybe that was a WB mandate, but man. But other than that, hey, Wonder Woman and the Amazons had the best action scene in the movie, so kudos to them. Moving off of that, let's get into the man himself, Batfleck. Yes, let's talk about Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, aka the Batman.
It's really exciting to bring Batman back to the big screen.
Alright, so yeah, now getting on the topic of Batman in this film, it's very difficult to like really discuss Ben Affleck without really mentioning the behind the scenes drama, because even though Justice League has had its fair share, there has been one thing that's been a major debacle, and it's actually been a personal qualm of mine. I've actually been really pissed off about this for a long time now, and that's obviously Ben Affleck. Is he going to stay? Is he going to leave? Will he continue to portray the character Batman for the remainder of this franchise, if this franchise has any legs to stand on after this movie? Who the hell knows? And it's actually really bothered me because I love the character Batman, and I feel like whenever there's an actor or a creator or somebody who tries to set back the character from it being something really true and amazing, it just really bothers me. It's like one of those things that I wish Ben Affleck and the rest of Warner Brothers who work on these specific movies would actually just have the balls to just really do a good job at stating the obvious, or at least giving you the bare bones truth. They've done terrible PR to really give us a good statement as to whether or not Ben's staying or he's leaving. It's like, is he gonna stay? Is he gonna go? It's like, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna recast him? Who's gonna be Batman? What is this gonna, is he gonna be rebooted? Who the fuck knows? It's one of those things that I just wish they did a better job doing this, and I feel like even Ben Affleck himself has done a terrible fucking job at really stating the obvious. And for me personally, if you go back on my channel and check out any of the number of DC videos I've done or the reviews I've done on the DCEU, you know I'm not a giant fan of Batman in this particular universe. I don't think it's that great. I think it's kind of overrated. I know that's sacrilegious to say because everybody in the fandom loves Batfleck. Everybody considers it to be the definitive Batman on screen, or whatever the fuck that means. I don't really think that. I feel like with all my major issues with BVS, I will admit that, sure, Ben Affleck, he did an okay job. I think he brought a lot of intensity and ferocity, and he gave it a certain kind of gravitas. So I will give Ben Affleck credit for bringing something to the table. But that interpretation, the writing, the directing, the choices, I just don't know how anybody can look at that and say, oh, that's definitive Batman. Oh yeah, hey, that guy who's playing Bruce Wayne, who's in a freaking bed with a random chick drinking vodkas and popping pills, oh yeah, that's my Batman. Fuck no, that's not Batman. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. And don't get me started on the countless murders he caused. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the warehouse scene just as much as the next guy. It's an amazing scene, and it's probably the best fight sequence in any Batman movie in the franchise, hands down. I will give Zack Snyder all the credit in the world for creating that sequence for Batman fans. But for fuck's sake, there was just so much bullshit in that movie that I don't even want to get into it. And when it comes down to this movie and for future movies, I feel like this is the best way I can put it. And if people get pissed off about it who are hardcore Batfleck fans, I understand. But this is coming from a personal, not even a vendetta, because I don't have one, but just the feeling of a hardcore fan who is trying to be genuine here for a second, so bear with me. Here's the best way I can put it. If Ben Affleck wants to stay and he decides to stay, all the power to him. But if he wants to go, then I'm not gonna shed no fucking tears. I don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter to me, because what's important is the character, not the actor who betrays the character. Sure, there's been a lot of actors that betrayed this character that I like, but there's always going to be a new one, because there's always going to be a new movie. So I'm not going to shed any tears if someone decides to go, or if the studio wants to go a different route. And if that means recasting Ben Affleck with Jake Gyllenhaal, or John Hamm, or Carl Urban, whatever actor they decide, sure, it is what it is, and I'll accept that. But I'm not going to cry over it. And I personally feel like they should make a decision and make it public immediately, because it's just getting so aggravated, this whole back and forth bullshit. I would love, if Ben Affleck decides to go, of course, I would love the Stephen Amell of Batman actors to play Batman. And I'm not trying to say, oh, Stephen Amell should play the character. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I would like an actor, the personality of Stephen Amell, to be the Batman for the movies. Because the great thing about Stephen Amell, and once again, I'm not trying to blow too much smoke up his ass, but he's done an amazing job as Arrow. He's done an amazing job carrying the show as the lead Arrow, and he's just done such an impeccable job not only portraying the character, portraying the multiple versions of the character on the series for its 5 to 6 year run, but he's done a great job transforming himself to portray that character, and he's been so reachable for the fans. He's had such a hand in the pulse of the fan base of Arrow that it's so amazing to have an actor like that. And I wish and hope that if Ben Affleck decides to go, they get an actor of that same caliber, in the sense of being very reachable, yet being very, very into that character. I want an actor who's going to be completely dedicated to playing Batman for like the next 5 to 10 years. However, regardless of any of this stuff, we don't know what's going to happen. We have to wait and see. Let's get into his actual performance as Batman. So, regardless of any of that, I do feel like there was a lot of good when it came down to this movie. Obviously, Batman doesn't kill a lot of people, and when he does, it's mostly CGI monsters, so I will give them credit for not murdering people in this movie. There's definitely a lot of contradictions with Batman in this movie in comparison to BVS, and he definitely surprised me in a lot of ways on how well he played the character, specifically Bruce Wayne. In this movie, the best thing I can say is Ben Affleck does an amazing Bruce Wayne, because the interesting thing about playing Batman is that you don't always have to be Batman in these movies, and anybody can do a cool voice. Some better than others, obviously, but anybody can put on a costume and do a cool voice. Anybody can really do that. However, you have to really kill it as Bruce Wayne, because that's how most of the movie is going to portray the character, as the character Bruce Wayne. And I feel like Ben Affleck did a really good job portraying multiple versions of Bruce Wayne in this film. I think he did an amazing job, especially compared to his BVS performance. Ben Affleck he killed it as Bruce Wayne. I really, like, after the ending of this movie, I really felt like, oh wow, he really felt like Bruce Wayne. There's just really cool moments where he felt like a real character, or like a real person, I should say. And I'm not saying the jokes, like, helped, because they didn't. I really feel like, regardless of WB's mandates to make the movie a little bit more fun and lighthearted, I think worked for other characters. Not really Batman, but it is what it is. Now, his performance as Batman is an entirely different story. I really wasn't a huge fan of Batman once again. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of Batman's desire to, like, murder criminals in BVS, which a lot of people go back and forth with. In this movie, I will say this. I really did not care about his performance as Batman. It really felt like not even Ben Affleck himself cared about portraying Batman. I think the best way I can put it is that it felt like Ben Affleck was, whenever he was outside the costume, he was doing something, but when he was in the costume, he was coasting. Because it just felt like he could hide behind the makeup and the cowl and just be nobody. And that's kind of how he felt portraying Batman. Like, he just felt like he just didn't give a fuck. And maybe that's just my viewing of his performance. Maybe someone has a different opinion, because there's obviously a huge fan base for Batfleck. But for me personally, every time I saw Ben as Batman, it just felt like he could give two shits about being Batman. He just really didn't give a fuck, and he really delivered his lines like that 1980s Danny Glover kind of thing, when he's like, back in the day when he always played a cop, he was always,
I'm too old for this shit.
He always did that in those movies, and that's how I felt watching Batman in this movie. Like, every time Batman fell or hurt himself, it just felt like watching Kingdom Come Batman. It just felt like such an old man playing Batman under that costume that it just felt so pathetic and embarrassing to watch this character. So yeah, I was pretty disappointed with Batman in this movie. Once again, Ben, he did a good job as Bruce Wayne. As Batman, there was a lot left to be desired, and I just feel like he didn't bring it. But regardless of all that Ben Affleck Batman shit, let's get into somebody who I'm sure a lot of people were expecting a lot out of this movie to see how they would reintroduce the character and how that character would be played. And that is, of course, the last son of Krypton, the Man of Steel himself, Henry Cavill, as Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, aka Superman. So we finally got into that moment. Of course, spoilers all around. Obviously, the movie's been out for some time, but obviously it's one of those things that it's so blatantly obvious that it was going to happen. It happened, and that's, of course, the return of Superman. Return in the sense of Superman comes back to life in more ways than one, and I'll get to that in a second. But overall, if there's any kind of real major problems, because surprisingly enough, I have a lot of positives to say here, if there's any real major negatives I have moving forward on the topic of Henry Cavill and Superman, are two things. Number one, I wish he had a better story. The problem with Superman in these movies is that he's not a real character, and he doesn't have a good story to play off on. It's the same problem with most of these actors. Like I just mentioned with Ben Affleck, they're only as good with the material they're given. These actors, with exceptions here and there, of course, like I would say, you know, like J.K. Simmons and Amy Adams and actors like that caliber, obviously, with any kind of material, they can be phenomenal, but it really depends with these specific actors, the kind of material you give them where they can succeed. Unfortunately, they've not have been given the kind of quality work that I feel like they need to really achieve greatness with these characters. Henry Cavill is a big part of that, because he's the only actor that's played a character more than once or twice, and he hasn't really succeeded in this version of Superman, because this, not only was this character given nothing really to work off on, but it's an interpretation that most people don't like. It really made for a very uninteresting looking character, and there's no real arc with Superman. So that's really all you have to work off with Superman, and when you only have that kind of material to work off, you're not going to put in an amazing performance, and that's the problem Henry Cavill has, not only with this movie, but with most of the movies. I just wish they would give him more material to work off on that's good and supports the character. Second thing, the CGI mustache. They did not do a good job. That's one of the major issues that came towards the reshoots of the film. Obviously, it was heavily publicized, the fact that Henry Cavill's mustache was going to cost a lot of fucking money. I think they gave it a title. I think they called it, what, Mustache Gate or something. It was a real debacle, and it actually hurt the movie more than it succeeded.
First of all, I know you've been getting a lot of questions about the mustache. I'm more interested about it from a filmmaking standpoint. I'm so blown away by the process of the removal of it. I'm curious, when you were on set, do you wear anything to at all cover it up, or do you do the scenes fully? How does that work?
It's nothing to cover it up. What we do is we try and pull it back from the top lip as much as possible, so they kind of wax it up, and then I have dots all over my face. And they try and put dots which are barely visible, sort of in the various points on the face which you would see them during normal, not face replacement, but whatever CGI aspect they may be applying to a face. And yeah, I was covered in dots and had a big moustache. It was definitely a new look for Superman.
He looks ridiculous. Henry Cavill's face is so distracting and so stupid looking. It's hilarious. It's just so blatantly obvious that that's a reshoot and that face is unnatural that it just comes off very, very, very just terrible looking. And the CGI in this movie leaves a lot to be desired. It doesn't look that great in comparison to, like, I would say even previous DC films, which at best aren't really that good as well. But fuck, this movie really takes the cake when it comes to terrible CGI, terrible visual effects. Like, with the kind of technology and artists out there today, I feel like they could have done a lot better job. Or just cut out the middleman and shave his stupid fucking lip. I know some defenders might try and like pretend it's like, you can't notice it. No, it's very noticeable. Everything else I fucking loved about Superman. I am surprised to be in this situation that I actually gone into a DC movie and really liked Superman. I don't know what the fuck WB, I don't know, maybe it was Joss Whedon's reshoots, or maybe Zack Snyder got his head out of his ass or something, but fucking Christ, I'm baffled. It took so many motherfucking, like, people don't realize this. If you're a hardcore DC fan, you know this shit. We've been waiting fucking years for fucking the return of Superman. And the literal death and return to get Superman on screen. We have to go through all those years, all those failed projects, all those shitty ass movies and TV shows that were too embarrassed to really do Superman right. And now we finally got it. And it's just so depressing to find out we have to deal with it in a crappy movie with a stupid CGI upper lip. It's so terrible that we have to deal with it. But I will say this, it's fucking phenomenal to finally have Superman done justice, no pun intended, but justice, and just done right overall. I mean, Superman is so incredible in this movie. For one, he's cheesy, he's corny, he's lighthearted, he's reachable as a character and as a person, and he feels like an actual being. In the previous movies, in Man of Steel, he's out of place. He's like a fish out of water. He's trying to find himself, and by the end of the movie, he introduces himself to the world, but through the wrong channels. In BVS, the people of Earth don't like him. They don't understand him. They feel like he's a threat to their own humanity. And every time we get to see Superman do Superman things, it's the most depressing thing in the world. Suicide Squad, he's dead. Wonder Woman is a prequel. Justice League is a grand return, and we finally have the Superman we all wanted. He is a person, and in this movie, he has the most cheesiest of dialogue and the most corniest of the deliveries. It's fucking phenomenal. The opening sequence, I loved it. I loved when the kids were like, "Oh, Superman, can I ask you something?" Like, that's how kids should feel when they look at Superman. He should feel like even though he's this impeccable force of nature and just this huge build of a man, but he's reachable, and you feel like you can talk to him and shake his hand and give him a hug because he's that good of a being. And then in the later half of the movie, when he returns, when he has that epic fight with the Justice League, you get to feel the true force of what Superman can really do, which is he is the strongest and most powerful being in the DC universe. Granted, once again, that's debatable. There's a lot of fucking powerful characters in comics, but in mainstream senses, and in the mainstream context, Superman is the creme de la creme, and you get to see it. He takes down Wonder Woman like it's nothing. Batman is nothing. Flash is trying to do something, and he's like, "Bitch, you think you're faster than me?" Fucking great sequence, by the way. CGI sure looked stupid and crappy, but the scene nonetheless was awesome. And when he takes down everybody, it's just phenomenal. And even in the later half, when he finally steps up to the plate and takes on Steppenwolf in the final boss battle, and he's like, "Well, I believe in truth, and I'm also all about justice." My God, was that a corny ass line and delivery. It was so cheesy and cringy, but that's Superman. That's Superman. He is cringy and corny. This is the first time, and especially publicly, that I actually would be looking forward to a Man of Steel 2 with Henry Cavill's Superman. I mean, there's just so many really just choice, fucking beautiful moments that feel like Superman. Sure, there's some stupid shit here and there, like Lois Lane saying Clark, like, out loud. That's dumb. You know, fucking Superman's reaction to being alive was kind of like, what? And of course, you know, his talk with Ma Kent was a little out of place. It's like, yeah, I get it, you know, Lois Lane is your love in life. I get that. That's, you know, we get it. But, you know, your mom raised you. Sure, she gave you some terrible advice based off the movies, but she's still your mom, and she, like, lost her house and whatever. Like, it would be nice to, like, I don't know, shed a tear or give her a hug or something. I don't know, it just felt awkward for me. I think it's finally time to get to the number one punching bag of the movie, and that is, of course, the main bad guy, the villain, the antagonist, Steppenwolf.
Primitive beings.
Yay, it's finally time to talk about Steppenwolf, the main bad guy of Justice League. For the most part, every other character is done somewhat well or somewhat adequately, some more than others, of course, but the main bad guy really takes the cake of being just straight up terrible. A lot of people have made comparisons to, like, the Thor Dark World villain, and I really don't know why the fuck that happened. In my personal opinion, Steppenwolf could be a really cool character to use as a main bad guy. Would I have used him? Fuck no. I think Darkseid would have been far the superior choice, especially for the context of Mother Boxes, Apocalypse, and Parademons. It just makes sense for Darkseid to be the main bad guy. I don't know what WB or Zack Snyder were thinking using Steppenwolf as the main bad guy, but it was a terrible choice. However, if they were going to go the route of Steppenwolf, I really do feel like they could have done something really interesting with his character, because for those of you who don't know, in the context of the comics, Steppenwolf is the uncle of Darkseid. Darkseid is the grand bad guy of the DC universe. He has an ongoing war with New Genesis, and his goal is to use the anti-life equation to bring death to the entire universe and stuff like that. Darkseid is basically the ultimate bad guy, and he is usually noticeable for being in the animated series, for being a main bad guy for not only the Justice League, but mostly for Superman. Steppenwolf, on the other hand, is really not. However, the great thing about his character is that he despises Darkseid. He has to work for Darkseid, because if Steppenwolf doesn't do what Darkseid wants him to do, he'll just incinerate him with his Omega beams, and then that'll be fucking it. The cool thing about his character, if you wanted to go off on something, is the fact that he hates Darkseid. He hates his fucking nephew and doesn't want anything to do with him. I feel like he could have done something really cool where maybe Steppenwolf tries to work with the good guys, or maybe he's a sympathetic villain and he doesn't like Darkseid. He wants him to be stopped before he gets his hands on the anti-life equation, or whatever they want to call it in the movies, if they ever get to that point. I feel like that could have been a far more interesting subplot or plot line in the movie, but they don't do it. Moving off of that, let's get into some co-stars. First off, Diane Lane and Amy Adams as Lois Lane and Ma Kent. Overall, I felt like they were kind of just a waste of time. Ma Kent serves no real purpose. She's kind of just there just to be there. And Lois Lane is dealing with the fact of whether or not she should continue to work because she's so heavily depressed with Clark being dead. And every time I see Amy Adams in these movies, I just get disappointed. I kind of feel like it's kind of like watching Natalie Portman in a shit movie. You're so much better than this shit. And Amy Adams is the same motherfucking way. Like, look at her, like, last year alone. She was in so many great movies. Like, Nocturnal Animals was great. Arrival was amazing. I picked it up on Blu-ray. Amazing movie, but they don't give her anything to do, and every time I see her interpretation of Lois Lane, I always just get turned off. J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon, yeah, that was something. A big waste of time, I will say. J.K. Simmons, phenomenal actor. Commissioner Gordon, great character. Not great in the movie. I think he's okay. He has a good look, but beyond that, I think when J.K. Simmons said, if you blink, you might miss him, you actually might miss him because he has really nothing to do with this movie. Mira, we got Amber Heard as Mira. I think Amber Heard's an okay actress. I haven't seen her in a lot of things that really blew me away. I think she obviously looks the part. She's obviously beautiful. I think her role as Mira was serviceable. I thought it was okay. She was okay. She was in it for a cameo, and that's pretty much the extent of her character, so there's not really much to go off on. Moving off that, we got, motherfucking Cyborg's dad, played by the motherfucking, Miles Dyson for friggin' Terminator 2. I thought he was okay, but I think he was serviceable as well. I think there wasn't a lot with him, so there's not a lot to judge. I feel like there could have been more, but based on what I saw, I thought he was okay. There was also Billy Crudup. Billy Crudup showed up as Barry Allen's dad, Henry Allen. okay. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention and discuss Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Yeah, there's a character that I completely forgot. Maybe that has a lot to do with the fact that he has really nothing to do with this movie. If you are a hardcore Batman fan and you're looking forward to the continued adventures of Batman and Alfred, well, you're pretty much not going to get any of that in this movie. So yeah, anyways, overall, yeah, oh my god, my head hurts from thinking about this movie even longer. Oh, Jesus Christ. So yeah, so there's post-credit scenes. Yeah, there's some of those. One really serves no purpose other than to have a comic booky joke for fanboys, which is basically the Flash and Superman decide to race each other, which I will admit is kind of fun. I will give it some form of leeway because of how fun it is to see a moment like that from the comics come to life. But at the same time, it felt a little off-putting with the rest of the film, especially with the realistic tone they go for with these movies. It's kind of like, hey, let's race. Hey, Superman, you want to race? Let's race. Okay. Why? Oh, it's not a macho thing. It's just, just cuz. Okay. So anyways, regardless of any of that, the next post-credit scene is essentially Lex Luthor meeting Deathstroke. Deathstroke is a part of the universe played by Joe Manganiello. What's his freaking name?
Hi, I'm Joe Manganiello, and I have one seriously weird-ass last name. I mean, just look at it. There's an I in it, and all of those L's.
Anyways, so he's Deathstroke, and Lex Luthor came out looking Gene Hackman without talent, and he's fucking talking to him, and he's like, hey, what's up, Deathstroke? Let's do a league of our own. Hinting at the fact of possibly doing Legion of Doom, or the less popular Injustice League. So they decide to do that. That's basically what the post-credit scene is. I'm okay. I think it's fine. It sucks that we have to see Jesse Eisenberg again. I don't really understand the thought process of ever bringing him back, but whatever. I guess for continuity reasons, it's okay. But I think anybody would not sue or hate WB if they decided just to recast Lex Luthor. And I don't think anybody would ever bitch about it. Justice League was very interesting film. It was fun. It was entertaining. It was a big mess. It was a lot of blah, a lot of meh. I do personally feel like they should have just done a big redo. As much as it would have pained a lot of DC fans of this universe, I personally think it would have been a superior route, which is just completely scrap everything and redo the entire thing, because what this movie really needed was a lot more setup, a lot more character arcs, a lot more development with its characters, because everyone really has nothing. Sure, that would have been even more time and maybe even more money, but like, I don't want to waste my time with whatever movies. I want to have good movies, especially with characters I've grown loving. So it just felt like a big waste of my time. But regardless of any of that, I hope you somewhat enjoyed what I had to say. Overall, look, this is my subjective opinion. You don't have to agree with it. Maybe you don't even understand it. I don't know. I'm a pretty incoherent mess. Kind of like DC in a way. But in the great scheme of things, I do want DC to succeed, but if they're not going to do things justice, I don't want to waste my time with them. So that's really all I can say. Overall, my final verdict for this film has to be solid. It was somewhere in between like a 4 and a 7. So I guess I would kind of, on a good day, I'd give it a 6. Based on, if I didn't know this universe or its characters, I would have given it like a 5 or a 4. But I'm going to give it its leeway. It doesn't really deserve it because of all the shit it's been through and all this shit it's basically done. But I give it a 6 out of 10. It's just okay. It's passable. It's not the greatest thing ever. It's not the best movie I've seen all year. It's just okay. So overall, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed my personal thoughts on this film. I've had a blast. I had a blast talking about it, kind of. And it feels nice to finally I can't see with these. I don't even wear glasses. I don't know if I was wasting my time with this shit. Don't know what I'm doing anymore. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video. Subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. I really hope you enjoyed. If not, oh well, there's a comment section and a dislike button for you specifically. Hope you enjoyed. This has been Jonks12, and I will see you guys and gals and ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls and people with sexual preferences in between next time.
Don't you cry no